people on the live stream. Everything's going through there. Live, TV is on. Everything is ready to go. We have everybody's things downloaded. We do somewhere. Where is it? Under downloads. Here we go. Lawson.
Hi, I'm Lawson. This is my continuum animation. The first ball has no squash and stretch. The second has a little bit. The third one's a little bit more exaggerated. The fourth one incorporates a launch into it. And the fifth one incorporates a little bit of a wobble when it reaches the top of its bounce, as well as it being a little bit more exaggerated on the launch with a bit of a pause when it hits the ground.
Cool. Those all look really good to me. I mean, when you're looking at this stuff, my first level of feedback is definitely just sort of like intuitively, does this feel right? And yeah, all these, like the timing and got more exaggerated as we go from left to right. That was good. The prep for a bunch of them
a little bit more
seemed
exaggerated.
to work well. My only critique here is that this one, the moment it hits the ground, it seems to have already been pancaked or pancakes slightly before, and like maybe stretching, giving yourself a little bit more time there to cognitively see because you took the first step in that you changed the actual up and down timing, right? This one is not matched the other ones, and so that gives you now that you've committed to doing that, now how much can we do for maximize that decision in order to really make this one seem totally ridiculous, right? But very minor.
Incorporates a launch into it, and the fifth one incorporates a little bit of a wobble when it reaches the top of its bounce, as well as it being a little bit more exaggerated on the launch with a bit of a pause when it hits the ground. For my hammer and ball animation, I made some small changes.
Okay, so the other thing that Lawson's doing here that is GREAT great is he has the video looping in the background. So I assume you're just, when you're doing the presentation video here, you're playing the video files and not in Blender, right? Yeah. So, I mean, there's instances where we want to do either or, right? Like obviously if you have a Blender related question, you should be showing us Blender so that we can understand that. But in terms of getting in here and being able to like absorb and process the result of the animation, right? Because ultimately it's the animation that matters, not what we're doing in the F-curves. And so we can watch the actual product and then work backwards to what we need to change in the F-curves. But Lawson has got it looping multiple times, which is excellent, versus just happening once, so that in the class we need to rewind and rewind and rewind so that we can just sort of like see it happening again and again. I'll write that into the future assignments to make sure everyone's doing it.
For my hammer and ball animation, I made some small changes. I made the pink ball bounce just a little bit more. I made the hammer wobble back after striking the heavy ball, and I just improved the lighting a little bit.
Yeah, and then that looks good. Just the thing there is, yeah, we tried to communicate the weight through the animation, right? So we weren't going to make one look different or look heavier or be bigger by scale. And then we did that continuum of physics bounce to cartoon bounce, right? So we sort of isolated the squash and stretch to explore that continuum. But that continuum exists in every animation, right? And so there's a version of that heavy ball that drops even faster, right? Which is, again, not physics related. Gravity exerts the same force on all objects. There's this air resistance issue that I'm not going to talk about. And so I think maybe dropping a little bit faster off the table might give you the look of it being heavier, but very, very minor. But the big important thing here is, yeah, we really dissected it and created it for the squash and stretch, but it really exists for all of these things.
These are some of the more basic ones. We have just the normal anticipation, wind up, and rotation. Then we have the hammers spinning and then coming to a slow stop after swinging back and forth. And finally, we have the...
Cool. Yeah, I mean, I think it's strategically here, half of you at least seem to have the intuition that you want to have everything come to a rest by the time you get to the last frame of the animation. And fine, but I think in order to make the hammers look convincing, that means you would have to make a pretty long animation. We talked about this briefly. Like when you actually do this in real life with like a pendulum, you can create, with just like tens of feet in a pretty heavy pendulum, you can have something that swings for, like, I don't know, like I think years, right? They have them like in the science places. But anyway, the point is, if it continues and past the end of the animation, that's fine. And in many instances, I think it's good to practice that, because that's what we want to have happen. We want to make it seem like the frame is just our window into the world that continues, that the world that has existed before we edit into this window, and it will continue to persist after we edit out of this camera shot. And so here we're seeing it all on a nice and neat timeline, and so like, we'll wrap it up by the time we get there. That is not super applicable when we get to sequencing multiple shots and telling a story and things like that. We want things to continue, right? And so you're right, your one on the right like continued, and you just edited out of it, and that
spinning and then coming to a slow stop after swinging back and forth. And finally, we have the bouncing ball animation. Added stretching using the empty object to make it stretch in the different directions. And I held the squash so it would be a little bit more cartoony. And added the wobble. And yeah, I think it turned out alright. I think my favorite of the projects that we did this week is probably the hammer and ball animation, just because it used a lot of the different elements of animation.
Cool, great, really well done, nice work. Yeah. The stripes are perplexing. You have them lined up to the vertical axis of the ball. Oh, okay, yeah. So like in this case, yeah. Okay, I see why that's happening. Yeah, because we're rotating within the null. So yeah, this may call sort of unnecessary attention to like the technique of the rigging at that point. So I mean, it would just depend what you want to do.
The bouncing ball animation.
Yeah, that was good. They felt like the timing of the squash and stretch, and then the amount of time we spent on the ground felt like the smushing was motivated by the ground. So well done. Good job. Okay, let's keep this one open. Here's Gage. Here's Gage. Okay, Gage, either your audio got lost. I didn't mute it on OBS, did I? Let's just double check. No. Why is that playing?
It just skipped to the next one.
Yeah, here we go. Okay. Okay, so the hammers still seem like they're not swinging freely. Like the keyframes are not spaced out enough. And so this one in particular, right, it seems like someone's wiggling it back and forth versus having it actually swing. So you're still not achieving, yeah, the time it takes for all of this to play out is too short. Yeah, exactly. Lawson was making the scale motion with his hands, right? You just need to highlight these keyframes, put the playhead back towards the beginning, and then scale them out in that direction a bit to give you some more space. And also, don't be afraid to increase the number of frames in the scene, right? If you need more space to work, I mean, if you need more time to work, free up that amount of time. Cool, that works. Let me just see that again. I think so. Yeah. When you're coming out of the wind-up, right, there's going to be this relationship between the wind-up and how quickly you go. There we go. That's swinging. So these look way better than the hammers at the beginning. You need to take this attention to detail and the timing and sort of put it over there. Yeah, okay. I would say you're like 60% of the way here on this one. This one, maybe the last two, you want to explore, you want to show me that you can at least do that part where we start to stay on the ground, right? That's going to be the key in this instance to getting way over on this side of the continuum. If you have all of them still committed to the same timing, you only have so much time to do the squashing and stretching. Also, your stretching doesn't seem quite right. It looks like you're increasing the Z, but not decreasing, at least not to the same amount, the X and the Y. All right, if we watch them here, let's watch it again. Yeah, they're not, as they stretch down, they're not getting thinner, right? And so this is the preservation of volume. There you go. You are not preserving the volume. Right there, it looks like you did it. So you need to apply that to the other one. Let's see that again. Not bad. That one felt the best of all of the work that you did there. Cool. Okay, so some work to do on the continuum there. And then, yeah, I'm not sure whether you didn't have audio, didn't record it, or the recording didn't happen. Here's Jose's.
Hello, here's the work I did for the week. First off, the squash and stretch continuum. This one was actually quite fun to do, especially, having to work around with squashing and stretching.
Okay, you're missing step one in that these are not, the Z keyframes here are not looking like this in your timeline. You've got the ball still easing into the bottom position to some extent, okay? Which means that it's slowing down before it hits the ground, which doesn't give us bounce there. It just ends up looking like someone has the ball on the stick and they're just kind of moving it up and down.
Hello, here's the work I did for the week. First off, the squash and stretch continuum. This one was actually quite fun to do, especially,
Yeah, I don't know how much of it is happening on the right hand too. On the left hand three, those are definitely not just the default, the fundamental Z position.
Having to work around with squashing and stretching. I could do some improvements to these, but I do like the result of the last two right here.
Yeah, those definitely look better, right? In terms of, they're faster. So if they are decelerating into the ground still, it's just happening in such a small amount of time that it's not as obvious, whereas the ones on the left are slower, right?
I think probably because I adjusted the line graphs, that's why they kind of...
Well, yep, it's all adjusting the line graph, right? That's where animators make their money, is in the line graphs. But what everyone needs to realize is the decisions and how you adjust the line graphs, that's where everyone makes their money, okay? That's what separates great from good in this instance. And so, yeah, the right-hand two definitely feel a little bit better. The quickness of them.
And here's the revamp of the hammer and ball animation. A lot much better from the previous.
That's better. The back and forth is still pretty quick. Yeah, again, like tie a string to something and drop it and see how long it takes. You know, like these swinging things, or just hold a hammer in your hand, or just hold your arm out like this and do that. I don't know if that's coming through on the stream, but yeah, it takes longer, right? It's still pretty quick.
Previous one I made, and that is thanks to the next one I'm going to show you after this. And that next one I'm going to show you is the hammer anticipation. This one was another fun one to make.
Yeah. So in general, I think we want these to get closer as this goes on, slightly. You're smushing them up a little bit too much there. The very first anticipation and go around, that looked good. That felt good.
I'm not gonna lie, I forgot to put the materials on this one. The next one I'm gonna show.
Okay. Well, I mean, everyone knows how to put materials on stuff at this point. Again, we're laser focused on the animation.
I feel like the hammer animations, especially
Yeah, that feels good. Yeah, that felt good.
with rearranging the line graphs
But then at the end,
and the keyframes, like it gives it this much more exaggeration to it. And
okay. I mean, we're learning about the principles of motion graphics, the principles of animation, and so the language here we just want to be clear on, right? That was anticipation, right? The reason I'm calling this out is because exaggeration is a separate principle, right? And so anticipation doesn't make it look exaggerated. I mean, it can be part of that, but right now we're trying to isolate them and understand exactly what those words mean precisely so we can combine them in very specific ways, right?
And here's the other one for anticipation with the cubes and the sphere.
Yeah.
Another one I actually enjoyed making.
When you guys, it's not just you, does it? Like, oh, I actually enjoyed this assignment. It makes me think like were the other assignments like really terrible? Did they really hate them? You know, like you're like surprised. You're like, yeah, I actually kind of enjoyed this. That one looks really good. I like this box. I think this box looks great.
The sphere.
Boom. Yeah, the last little part there, like the rotation, feels like it could be closer to the very end, but pretty good. Like those feel pretty good.
Another one I actually enjoyed making.
Right, this is really the hard part of doing this, is that I think most people, the vast majority, let's say 90%, have good intuition about this, where they animate something and then they're like, they have not the conscious, but the intuitive reaction that like, this feels good or this feels bad. The class and your success in doing this is about, understanding that intuitive reaction, good or bad. And when it's bad, what can I consciously do to change the animation to make it feel better, right? So like this is one of the words I try not to use as the only descriptor of an animation is smooth, right? Because when you talk to people who are not animators, that's like the number one thing. They're like, well, what does good animation look like to you? They're like, oh, it's really smooth, right? That's fairly meaningless in many contexts, right? And so here, right, we need to know when to be smooth, we need to know when to be rough, and then you still want to have that reaction in terms of like, even people not taking this class, you could show it to your friends who don't know anything about animation, and you can show them too, and they can be like, oh yeah, that one feels good, that one feels bad. They won't be able to tell you why. This class is about being able to answer that question and then implementing a change to it so that you can make it, quote unquote, feel good, right? The feeling about it is a very legitimate, intuitive reaction to have that you should, encourage in yourself. But then you need to have that reaction and diagnose it and fix it.
This one I struggle with.
Okay, so here, this is the same problem as the beginning bouncing balls. We're kind of decelerating into that bottom position, right? Yeah.
This one I struggle with. Been watching the videos like well, for hours to actually try to get this to.
Yeah, so what happened with the path here? The speed at which we're moving across is too slow. I mean, you ended up with this path where the ball goes kind of like this. I mean, the primary thing is that your Z keyframes look like this, and they need to look like that, right? When you're doing a bounce in Blender, in a normal room, the good news is that even if you don't understand what you're doing, the guiding principle is that you make the keyframes look like a bounce shape, and that results in a bounce shape. And so that's what we're missing here.
Get the animation I want, but I just can't get it. Hoping that much like our.
So when you're showing the stuff in the video, you were in dope sheet mode most of the time. That's good. But now when you come to instances where you're like, I'm not sure what to fix, show us the curves, right? Because then we can specifically say this, this, and this.
For hammer and ball animations that we redid. I'm just hoping we could redo this one so I could have time to actually try to make this the way I wanted it to be.
Good news. I will ask you to redo it this week.
Yeah, much like our hammer and ball animations.
Exactly. Yeah, no, that's part of the way I do all my classes. It's a part of doing client work for any client, right? Like I know in other Canvas classes, you sort of turn something in, the teacher grades it, and then it just evaporates from your life. Here, I'm trying to simulate something that's kind of like client work, where you give something to a client, and they want you to change it a million different ways, and then you change it, and then you give it back to them, and they're like, oh, we want you to change it again. And that process continues on. It's just part of doing client work.
Hello, this is Desmond, and this is my victory, and here's the helmet trick. I have put on.
Okay, so here, Desmond, the rotation keyframes on this hammer, you have it speeding up until the moment where it hits the ball, and then there's the ricochet. But then after the ricochet, it needs to change so that it's swinging back and forth. You have it continuing to bounce off of the invisible. The first bounce looked correct because the ball is there for it to bounce off of. That makes sense. But then as it goes on, the ball is not there. And so we are not bouncing off an invisible wall here.
And then exploration. Oh, wait, I didn't have a drink.
Yeah, so they're both bouncing off an invisible wall, right? So we want it to bounce off the heavy one, swing through the light one. So the light one is totally off.
And then this is a exploration. Timeline. And then.
Okay.
And then.
Okay, that's the first anticipation thing. Did you put them all in separate scenes?
Here.
I think it's better to have them in the same
Perfect
scene. That way you can
rotation.
tell, you can compare and contrast. So that one needs a bunch of work there. You're missing two of the other anticipations. Okay, the first go around looked good, and then after that, too fast and asymmetrical, in that the hammer's swinging further in this direction, or it's swinging further in this direction than in this direction, which is not correct. It should swing a little less each time, but it should decrease equally moving across.
And then.
So that needs some work.
Go here.
It stopped on that one too? Yeah. Yeah. In general, all of these. Yeah. 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 That's a good point Lawson brings up. Right? The hammer should not come to rest in this position. That doesn't make any sense, right? Gravity is pulling it towards straight down. So both of those things should be addressed there. Yeah, it might benefit showing us the. First of all, you might need some more time on the timeline, and then secondly, showing us the rendered movie. I think I'll ask everybody to do that next week.
Eyeball. Oh, I did one.
Okay, hold on. I'm missing a bunch of this live chat. I wish there was a way to pin this on my screen so it didn't. Oh, it's just okay.
And then spear.
The camera around. Yeah.
And then here the 5 different balls I worked on. Concentrate ball.
Okay, not bad. You got. I mean. Yeah, this got very thin. They're going very quickly. And again, the thing where we sit on the ground. I need to see at least one ball that does this so that this is the key to giving you that truly exaggerated squash. The squash, the coyote squash, of when the coyote falls off the cliff and is flattened onto the ground, right? That period of time. So these are too fast, right? Anytime something is too fast, highlighting all the keyframes and stretching them out on the timeline. Also, it looks like they might not be squishing in the, what is the Y direction here, like toward us. I can't quite see because we're kind of flat on here. But yeah, I mean, it works from this view, but we want to make, we're doing 3D animation here. You always animate to the camera to some extent, but like we don't want to totally ignore one of the axes.
And then they pretty much I have.
Yeah, so again, this being aware, a little bit of this is unavoidable, this pre-squash, right? If you use pre-squash, you want to do it intentionally. You don't want to have the ball deforming unmotivated in midair for no reason.
I did working on the parenting for the spare parents by actually working on them and putting all of them. My favorite one was the fire.
Okay, you got a bunch of, each scene needs some work there for sure. Desmond, I'd like to see all of those again next week. Here is Anthony's.
So you said to turn in something.
Turn Anthony up a little bit.
And since I was so busy this week, I was only able to.
Okay, this isn't just Anthony, this is everybody. We're not going to get less busy. We are going to get more busy. So keep that in mind. If you've only been working on stuff on Tuesdays up until this point, I would re-examine my schedule and re-examine my time management to try and work on stuff not just on Tuesdays, some other time during the week. That allows you to ask questions earlier. And yeah, we're just going to need more time for this class.
Finish one thing. And it's the anticipation.
Okay, not bad. The rotational one, the keyframe between the tilt and here, I feel like there's 2 of them and it takes a long time for it to come down, right? Usually there's 2 options there. I think the one I did, it slams down quickly and that kind of motivates its propulsion forward, right? You could do that, or you could have it tilt back further when it goes fast forward, and then at the end have it slam down, right? But here, yours very slowly rotates back into the finished position, which doesn't seem like it's motivated by the actual motion of the object. Does that make sense there? And then also, I think the anchor point might be in the wrong place. Let's see.
And it's the anticipation.
No, your anchor point looks like it's in the right place. That's good.
Could have been able to. Hold on, I could have been able to find out a little bit, but since I'm almost out of time, this is the best I can do. I don't have much questions. Bye.
Yeah, it's just, I feel like you need to analyze that last one. We wanted to, because what is spinning it down? Gravity, right? And so when gravity is causing the motion, right? And so gravity can make something move position. That's all the ball stuff we've been doing. Gravity can make something rotate. That's all the hammer stuff we've been doing, right? And in this case with the cube, it's making it rotate, right? It's up on its end and then here. But in both of these cases, it is gravity that is doing it, and gravity will accelerate it towards the ground, right? And so your rotation is not accelerating. It doesn't look like this on the graph. It probably looks like this on the graph, right? Right, so this one is not good because it is decelerating towards the end of the motion, which is not very gravity-like.
So you said to turn in something, and since I was
You're right, I did say that. That is good.
so busy this week, I was only able to
Wait, did we hear that already? Okay. Okay.
since I didn't.
Okay, so we got that one. Okay, and then you're missing the other scenes, right? So you got to work on those yet? Okay, awesome. Then we'll get that caught up for the next week. That was Anthony's. Here's Aaron.
Hey y'all, I have
Aaron's got a hot mic. All right, let's turn that down. I need this volume knob up here. Okay, here we go. Sorry for blowing everyone's eardrums on the live stream. Or actually, no, that volume does not go to the live stream. So you guys were probably fine.
Hey y'all, I
It's
have
just the people in the room who had the unpleasant experience.
for you this week all of my scenes, what with their squashing and stretching and such.
All of the squashing and the...
As you can see, I found a functional webcam, so I can now record from my proper computer with its 5070 Ti and such. So,
Humble brag. 5070. Nice. Yeah. Well, he's got to turn up the microphone so he can hear himself over the hum of his GPU, apparently.
I
No, it's great to see you in person, Aaron. Very dramatic.
can play for you all of the scenes in real time rendered. So, first is the hammer and ball scene. As I recall, there weren't really any major issues with mine. I did.
The rumbling? It's the subwoofer. Yeah, we have a subwoofer in the corner there. So, yeah, Aaron's got a good microphone that is probably sitting on something and not on a separate stand, and so that's giving us a little bit of subwoofer there. So, yeah, that's the price we pay for having a subwoofer. Yeah, if you have a pop filter, I used to have a pop filter for this. I need to get it back because I'm sure I'm popping on the response. But then also it's probably recording that. Aaron knows about this, so if you just put a high pass filter in OBS, that would save the subwoofer at school. But
Make a few simple edits like moving the text around to make it look a bit better, but animation wise, I left it almost exactly the same as it was. For the anticipation scene, let it play here. They wind up and then they move.
okay, so you got some bounce in the skidding down here of it. That I thought that was good, but the bounce on the rotation keyframes felt a little slow, slightly. But I like the blocking of the position.
Same as it was. For the anticipation scene, let it play here. They wind up and then they move.
Yeah, and I think the other thing there that could feel a little bit better on this one is on the move forward. You're moving forward at such a velocity, I would expect that to be reflected in the rotation of the cube. So it might tilt back a little bit more there when you go forward so quickly. But I appreciate the
enough.
velocity. You really generated some velocity
Next, the anticipation with rotation with the hammers, one swinging almost 180 and the other the full 360. As you can see there.
there. Yeah, nice.
Then
Rushed, but like very minor.
the squash and stretch continuum with physical, or the
Zany, I like that in terms of the continuum. Physical to zany, physical to cartoon, physical to
adhering more to physics on the left and cartoonish on the right. With the first one here just having no squash and
Nice.
stretch, second having a bit, third having a bit more with anticipation, fourth having that same thing exaggerated more with coyote time and some dwelling on the bounces, and last one all of that exaggerated plus wobbling constantly. And lastly, the lateral movement with squash and stretch, and I should probably hide the rig.
Yeah, well done. So, I cherry picked the camera angle so I didn't have to do more than one bounce, and you did not. So good. That looks really good. Yeah, it comes to a rest, I think, convincingly, and you got the squashing and the rolling. Having some sort of texture on it would give us a little bit more. If the ball is a solid texture like this, the rig that we set up becomes kind of unnecessary because you can't really see the rotation. But technically you nailed it.
Simple enough. And of course, I can show the.
But it does violate our principle of how much complexity do we want in our rig? Just enough. And so in this particular instance, unless you didn't put a different material on the ball, you'd sort of be overdoing it. I mean, minor. But again, the
graph editor for the ball and the rig. Unhide all that, and it looks like a complete mess, but it works. My favorite scene would probably be this one. It looks pretty smooth.
Yeah, I
And
agree.
I thought I made good use of the rig to show rotation in the squashing and stretching. As you can
Yeah, just put something. I mean, maybe you did put a very subtle checker on it. It's hard to tell in this render, but
see there.
you probably did because you understand what's happening now.
That should be about it for this week's presentation. See ya.
Okay, excellent, Aaron. Well done. Trenton.
Hello everybody, this is Trenton Heller. This is my video for the week showing my projects for my wind-up anticipation.
Yeah, generating quite a bit of velocity there. That's good. The rotating back on the
Everybody, this
cube.
is Trenton Heller. This is my video for the week showing my projects for my wind-up.
Yeah, especially given that the cube doesn't seem to generate quite as much velocity as the wind-up does, which is fine. But then, yeah, the problem is exactly what we're talking about with most everybody's is that the rotation is motivated by gravity. It doesn't quite feel.
Anticipation. Here is my continuum. And
Okay, so yeah, looping the videos here will help us. In my first read here is that it looks like the keyframing work that you did is fairly decent, but it's just all too slow in terms of it all feels very sluggish. So that's an easy fix, just selecting all of your keyframes and smushing them slightly this way in time.
here is my continuum. And the rotational anticipation hammers. Next is
The hammers, I'd say, are 70% of the way there. They feel like they're kind of hanging in a weird way. The acceleration of the hammer itself starts to feel motivated rather than.
probably the one I want to talk about.
Okay, and then here, yeah, you're suffering from the same thing we talked about before. The up and downness of the ball is not doing this or this, right? In this case is still fine because here is the period of time where we're on the ground, right? Yours is doing this, right? It's funny how this works, but this does not, right? It's this part of it. The decelling into the ground at the end really makes it not look as if the ball is bouncing.
Most of this. In terms
Also,
of,
your ball's not
questions.
rotating there, so you're kind of missing a bunch of stuff on the rig.
Next is probably the one I want to talk most of this in terms of questions, and then my reworked hammer weight, which I thought came out much.
Okay, that one feels better. Those hammers, like at first glance, felt better than the new hammers in terms of their swinging.
Questions, and then my reworked hammer weight.
Yeah. The first 3 or 4 swings here felt really good. Then it got kind of linear in terms of going back and forth. And then, yeah, let's see this one again.
Talk most of this in terms of questions.
Yeah, you do need to have the ball sit. Trenton asked in the live stream, but you don't have it accelerating into the ground. Even when it sits on the ground, it doesn't do this. It doesn't curve and then decel into the ground. It still does, the fundamental balance is this, right? Remember, slope equals velocity. And so the sharpest slope, the greatest slope, is the moments before we hit the ground, because it's accelerating towards the ground, and that's what you're missing.
And then my reworked hammer weight, which I thought came out much better than the previous version. In terms of questions on something I want to go over, it's definitely this one, because for some reason, no matter how much I tried, when I tried to separate the stuff, it only ever came up as one line, no matter how much I move stuff, even though I have them on different planes, I couldn't get them to separate without the ball just being erased or thrown across the whole area. So I'd like some feedback on if I'm.
Yeah, this button here will expand this so that we can tell what's happening. It says, yeah, all of the information here, there's definitely some information there because your ball is moving, but it's all so small that we can't see what's happening. And so this button is the one click to actually zoom in vertically, because you can see plenty of it horizontally. We can't see it vertically. And so Lawson's correct. You got to click the normalize button there at least once to get it so we can see what's happening. And then, yeah, I think that's going to separate this out. And then, yeah, there's no rotation keyframes on the sphere itself. Yeah, there's no squashing or stretching. The squashing and stretching needs to be happening up here, right? Yeah, you've just got location keyframes. There's no scale keyframes. And so this level has position and scale. This level just has rotation.
Missing perhaps a tool or an option that I need to have on to just have them separated, like in the demonstration. So as like something to add to notes. And in terms of my
So when you said I did nothing changes, is that you did press the normalize button?
favorite video project, I think it has to be this one. Just because of all the.
I said you pressed the normalize button and nothing happened. Let's see. Is there any way to just make sure it's going to work in... Let's see, if I zoom out a bunch, let's turn it off. There we go, there. If I press this, it's doing it that way. I mean, there's no settings here, right? What if I had multiple things? Does he have multiple things selected and then it's not showing him? Because if this is off, and then does that change the behavior here? No, that still normalizes it. What if none of this is selected? Then if I press this, yeah, I mean, it's possible you threw it in some sort of state where it stays compressed like that. Yeah, so the decimal point key, which is the point that's on the numpad, if you select keyframes and then press, like even if this is off, and I zoom way out and I grab these and I press that, okay? Then it frames everything both horizontally and vertically. Maybe give that a shot to see if it reframes it there. Yeah, no, it's not your file. I guess you did give me your file. Let's open that to see if I can make it work or not. Bing, da, bum, ba, bum, ba, 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 da, ba, da, ba, da, Parent rig blend. There we go. Let me open this in the correct thing. Downloads. Why is this going to a different folder? I didn't download it. For real this time. Okay, there we go. There it is. And badoom, there we go. Okay, so if I select these and press the period key, there we go. Can I undo that? What if I just press this? It does, yeah, like that. It shows us with something there. And so again, that control space bar, especially if you're working on a laptop, I think is super useful here. If this is off, does that stop working? If we do the period key, the decimal point key, there we go. That worked. But remember, it's only showing you the stuff you have highlighted. So if you grab part of it, it's just gonna do that. If you press A and get all of them and then press the decimal point key, it would go up. Remember, the decimal point key is only going to work if you have a numpad. And if you don't have a numpad, you should go to Preferences and click Emulate Numpad. And then, let's see, I'm not 100% certain if the period then becomes the decimal point. Let's just try it. Edit, Preferences, Emulate Numpad. Now, if I just grab part of these and I press the period key, no. And so I'm not sure. Yeah, I would just press the normalize button then at that point. Okay, so that let me turn that off because I really like using the numpad on Blender. So even if you're on a laptop, just grabbing a USB keyboard that has a numpad on it, I think, you know, if you're at home on your desk, like, I think it's worth it. I don't think you know, I'm not saying you should carry a additional keyboard around while you're working on your laptop. That seems like ridiculous, but oh yeah, you can get those USB just numpads there, you know. Anybody really into specialized keyboards? I'm starting to go down that rabbit hole in terms of like keycaps and cherry switches and all that stuff. Yeah. They look like expensive things that may take up some of my time soon. Okay, so yeah, what's going on here, you've got, if you remember, I went in here and I deleted a lot of the keyframes on the X that move it across, because we're moving across in a fairly linear fashion. We're not moving down 2 times, but here, this, right, this is the Z, and you are decelerating into here, which is not what we want to be doing. We want to make sure our bounces are still, we need to make sure that this is free to move and free to look like a bounce of some kind. And up here, maybe a little bit of that, right? And so now, yeah, there we go. So part of the problem here is like you're moving at a very slow fashion. Here, how many keyframes do we want? Just enough, right? For this is my, I think this might be this semester's slogan, right? If we have more keyframes than we need, that makes it harder, not easier. And that's what happened here on your X keyframes, right? And so deleting some of the X keyframes so that we just have a beginning point and an end point makes it easier to have the ball move at a constant velocity across the screen. There we go. And so now, yeah, we're definitely hanging out too long here, right? See how this looks fairly linear? That's why it doesn't look like it's bouncing. Let's crank it some more in this direction, and then boom, boom, there we go. And then the rotational keyframes need to be going here, right? And so this is where you need to be rotating on probably the, yep, you have it on Y, so like local, so it should be the Y axis. You need some keyframes there. Yep. Okay. Cool. I'm glad we were able to find some clarity there. Who is
Hi, my
comp
name is Edward
4?
Martinez, and this is what I did for the ball smacking animation. Each one.
Ed. Is this Ed? I think I went in it backwards. Order. Yeah, Ed, in your OBS, put your name on the files, or just name them afterwards, right? Over here, settings, advanced, boom. Put your name in here, right? So that then it has your name on it. Because we've got comp 4, and then I'm like, who is this?
This is Edward Martinez, and this is what I did for the ball smacking animation. Each one, all of them.
It's good. I mean, maybe it feels like a touch slow, but the proportionality of the
Are on the dope sheet at the same time, because I don't know how to do like them individually, or at least don't remember it right now.
to do what individually? Like look at them individually? Is that what he's saying?
For the ball smacking animation. Each one, all of them are on the dope sheet at the same time, because I don't know how to do like them individually.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so this is a little bit of a quirky thing, because right, you're in dope sheet, and so this is off, which means it's showing you everything. Okay? If this is on, then it'll show you only the ones that are selected. Okay?
Or at least don't remember it right now. They all have their own little graphs.
Okay. Here, this is contributing to the sluggishness, right? You're still curving down slightly here, right? I think in order to really smush it into the ground, you're still harnessing gravity, accelerating you into that smack onto the ground, and then back out, right? Any curvature in the other direction, any slope in the other direction is slowing down when you hit the ground. And so, yeah. And then here at the beginning, when it starts going up, if this were to be like this, and it was preceded by the squash stuff, which you have, it really makes it seem like it's throwing itself into the air versus, right, like what would accelerate slowly up into air, like a rocket or something like that, where it's like slowly getting the momentum to go up, and we're not doing that there. Good job showing all of the F curves. That makes it much easier to say things that are helpful about what you're doing here. So
These are the changes that I made to the hammer, to like the two hammers. I changed the golf ball so it moves a lot faster now and doesn't just stay in place afterwards. I then changed the bottom hammer.
okay, so again, the bottom hammer is bouncing off of the heavy ball. Same thing here. A bounce always looks like this. It comes to this point, right? And so that's why this one doesn't quite, it doesn't smack or slap when we get there, is that you're decelling right before you make contact with the ball.
To hopefully look a lot better than did the previous time, and the little golf.
Right, it makes it look like someone's hitting it and pulling it back, because that's what if you were holding the hammer in your hand and it wasn't being accelerated by gravity, these are the things you would have to do. In order to change direction, your body needs to exert force in the opposite direction and sort of slowly decelerate it and then go back in the other direction. Gravity does not do that.
Ball still moves in sync with the rest of the animation.
Yeah, the ball looks good. It's the hammer that's the problem here.
I think my favorite part about making this was definitely the squash and stretch. That was very, not new, but it was like, I never got to mess around with it like that before, and it was a lot of fun to experience.
Yeah, so here, this is just a framing issue. I mean, put the whole, in terms of like diagnosing what's happening with the animation, let's see the whole hammer. That felt a little rushed when we see it go up and over the head at the top.
This isn't really important for the animations, but I've noticed that whenever they appear on the teacher's video, it ends up echoing, and I'm not sure where that comes from because it's not.
Yeah, it's me. Like sometimes. I just muted myself while I was trying to explain this. I have a button that does that, and I'm not jamming it 100% of the time. And so when you're talking back in the room, it is you coming out of the speakers and coming here. You guys sound fine. I don't think anyone in this class is recording a flanged or vocoded sounding audio. So yeah, it's just me turning on and off the talk button. Right, so remember, we're coming out of speakers. The speakers are being recorded by a microphone. This is not an ideal situation, but I'm trying to make it work for people who are at home and people who are in the room.
On the teacher's video, it ends up echoing, and I'm not sure where that comes from because it's not happening on my end even when I go back to rewatch them.
That's
after having seen them, so I'm not super sure what to do about that or how to fix that.
Okay. Pretty good. Let's see that last one again.
Hi, my name is Edward Martinez, and this is what's happening on my end even when I go.
Yeah, I like the rotation you did here. Like it definitely, you're taking a step along that anthropomorphic spectrum there. And yeah, the rotation seems sharper. We're not taking too long to rotate, and so I thought those worked.
Go back to rewatch them.
In terms of this last one,
after having seen them, so I'm not super sure what to do about that or how to fix that.
Yeah, that feels good. I thought this was okay.
Hi, my name is Edward Martinez, and
I felt they could have a little bit more downward velocity to motivate the amount of smushing that we're doing, right? So that's part of what we did in that squash and stretch continuum. As we made the squash and stretch more ridiculous, we also increased the velocity going up and going down. So that kind of motivated this. If you were to keep it the same speed, but squash it in a ridiculous fashion, I don't think it would be as successful.
Hello, I'm Diana, and this is the hammer video that I reworked. So in the first one, the light hammer at the top, it hit the light ball and then it bounced back. So this time I made it go forward and then swing back and play it. And
Yeah.
then the heavy hammer, I just
Like you definitely did, like the swinging time felt pretty good, and I felt it hit those spheres.
so this time I made it go forward and then swing back and play it.
Yeah, the top one really feels like it swings through the ball, and then the ball acquires an appropriate amount.
And then the heavy hammer, I just made it swing a little bit more because the first one, it just kind of hit the ball and then went back once and then stopped. But now I made it swing a little bit more.
Yeah, you're getting it. And you're playing it back multiple times on the video. Excellent.
Yeah.
And you didn't. Did you send me another video? Where is it here? Nope, that's the whole thing.
Forward and back. Yeah.
Yeah, something went wrong in your editing / generation there, in that we just had a bunch of black screen at the end of your other video. Okay, here's the other stuff. None of this made it into the other one. Okay, so there, yeah, like you want to give yourself some more space on the comp. Like you're clearly just repeating it in the edit. And so what we need to see over here again is like a change in the up and down timing to motivate this. Yeah, because we don't, the whole comp is just too short. You need to give yourself enough room to explore it hitting, right? We're not just doing one up and down. We see it happen multiple times because now, right, before we were doing one up and down, but now we're doing up, down, squash onto the ground. So you need more time to show us that. Okay, that looks all right. Not bad. Okay, pretty good. Same thing. The rotation down here at the end seems too slow. But the other ones, you got the right idea. Okay, yeah, we're missing a bunch of stuff there. I mean, the squash and stretch is happening, but it's very slight. Right when the ball hits the ground. You got to remember that even though it looks like you've got a lot happening on the timeline, if it's all within 3 frames, right? You got to remember that's 4/24ths of a second, right? Very, very fast. And so that is too fast here. It looks like you've got the rig set up correctly, which is good, but not enough time for us to appreciate what's going on with the squash and stretch. So some work needed there, Diana. And then, yeah, something went wrong with your recording of everything. Here's Amy.
Hello. So these are my 5 scenes.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like you're using a really wide angle camera or something. Like everything looks kind of just distorted. You should move the camera back away from this and then change the focal length to a higher number. That's going to result in less of this perspective distortion, which when we're doing this 2D kind of shading just looks really
5 scenes.
I'm not sure what we're doing there.
These are my 5 scenes.
Okay, yeah, so we want the light one, right? This is the light bulb because it goes further, swings through. You have it bouncing off the first time. The heavy bulb, the heavy one bounces off. You have that happening. So this is confusing. Making a bigger difference between this one and this one would also help quite a bit, and having the light ball really go and having the heavy ball just barely trickle out there. Yeah, and the this one is swinging too long. This one is not swinging long enough. Okay, not bad. Okay, those swings felt pretty good. Let's see here. Okay, very wobbly. Yeah, okay, that feels pretty good. Let's see that again. The ball in the end there, we're getting the wobble and the repercussions. The balls felt like they actually propelled themselves into the air. Nice job on the continuum. Yeah, one at the end feels very wobbly. Oh, nice. You got the wobble on this one too. I think that helps. This one makes it seem even more gelatinous. Very nice.
For the hammer scene from last week, I wasn't able to turn it in on time. So this is actually my first time showing it. My favorite scene was probably
So the previous notes on this need some work. And then, yeah, your camera is you compensated by changing your camera focal length, which doesn't really work in this case because we are doing this like 2D shading where things are just kind of looking flat. We don't really see the dimensionality of them.
Anticipation with rotation to hammer spinning. This one. It was the easiest one for me, and I like messing with the rotations and I guess spinning the hammers. As of right now, I don't think I have any.
Okay, pretty good, pretty good. Yeah, the very first hammer scene needs some work, but the continuum certainly I thought worked good, and then the other one I thought worked well. Okay, pretty good. Who is this? Put your name on your files. Put your name on your files. Please. Exclamation point. Okay. And so Crimson, there we go. So here, this is Crimson's. Let's see this again. Yeah, not a lot of time for us to rewind. Let's see. Okay, this does swing through. Good. It didn't really anticipate, right? I mean, going back in the other direction before it swings through, you're just doing yourself a disservice. Like, I understand you're wanting to do something different, so you put this one going that way and the other one going the other way, but this is a comparative exercise, right? And so putting them both swinging in the same direction just makes it easier to compare them. Not only for me, but also for you while you're designing it. Yeah, so again, this stops prematurely. Feels like the swinging is rushed. This one stops way too soon. Some work to be done here. That felt okay. Let's see that again. Not bad. They felt like that in anticipation. This one doesn't rotate fast enough back to the ground. Okay, the first swing up felt good, and then it seemed to really not swing naturally down. I think your swinging keyframes get too close to each other too soon. Okay, they need to be spread out more. Need some work here. Yeah, we'll have some requirements for how many times it should loop. Yeah, I mean, close. We're still not quite seeing what we want to see there. I feel like also maybe you're not preserving the volume. Yeah. That you're going up, but you're not coming in. It's important to understand that. Or if you are coming in, it's very slight. Yeah, I tried your... It looks like you're adding more keyframes to this one in terms of the wobbling and everything else, but you're not compensating by spreading them out in time so that this one actually has time to differentiate itself from the other ones. So this comp is too short and it needs more attention to detail. That looks like you got the major parts of it there. But yeah, you didn't record anything this week. Got some work to do there. Okay. Here's this Shyla's.
Hello, this is Shyla, and I'm starting off with my revised heavy and light ball animation with the hammers hitting it. So what I had to do was animate the follow through of the hammers. So here I have the heavier one, and here's the lighter one. Here's the graph for both of those. I'll just scrub through it real quick, and then the heavy one right here. As you can see, this one's a lot.
Okay, again, when you're showing us the video, don't scrub, okay? We can't say anything about the timing of your animation if you're manipulating the playhead. Hit play. Right? Well, after you play it a few times, if you want to scrub part of it, that's fine.
Lower or closer together because there's less bouncing, and I'll play it.
Okay, you played it now. Okay, so very slow motion there on the other one. Just make sure it's symmetrical.
My stretch and squash continue on here. So let me play this one. I'll just show real quickly the graph editor for this one, and then this one. There's a lot going on.
I can't quite see all of them. I mean, showing the graph editor is good. This looks not quite right, right? Again, any sort of S-shaped curve, again, is not looking like gravity there, right? And so I'm not sure which one it is that we have selected here, but it's not quite S-shaped, but we're definitely decelerating a little bit. And even a little bit there can change the, perceived feel of it. It's a game of inches in terms of just nudging things. 1 or 2 frames in 1 or 2 directions can change it a bit. But when you show the curves here, the tool to look at what it is you're doing, right? Control space bar. Super, super useful.
There's a lot going on. Alright, and I'm going to talk about the last question while I just let this play. My favorite scene was probably the last one where we animated the ball bouncing across the screen. You'll see it at the end here. I don't know if I did.
Yeah, I was gonna say, did we see that one yet?
Good on it, but I
also, we didn't see this yet. I don't think that looks good.
Because of this scene right here, this continuum.
Yeah, these balls are definitely decelling into that position, right? And like I said, in order to motivate the huge pancaking, you need to be going at a huge speed, right? The coyote doesn't slowly float and splat all over the ground. The coyote is being accelerated towards the ground and then boom, just splats all over the ground.
Continuum was kind of confusing. I felt like there was a lot of lines.
Yep, same thing here, right? So these definitely have this going on with the up and down keyframes, the Z-axis.
But with the...
You got the blocking of the squash and stretch correct, but not the actual acceleration.
Last one, this one right here.
And it looks like you got the rigging correct in that you're able to rotate independently of the angle, which is correct. It's just your Z position on the top level. That graph does not.
I feel like I at least understood which line was which and what it did, and I'm kind of excited to see the feedback for this because to me it looks a little weird, but
It does look a little weird. It looks like they're slowing down into the ground, but good. I mean, you're doing a good job getting everything laid out. You got it all done. All that's there. You're understanding that, you know, the manipulating the F curves is the key to making this happen, right? But now taking that next step and understanding exactly what you need to do. And you also followed your intuition. You're like, this doesn't feel quite right. That is really important that you have that initial intuitive reaction. Now we just need to take the next step and avoid doing this and start doing this, right? Accelerate towards the ground. Okay, good. That's almost everybody. Almost. Arlinka.
Hi everyone, this is gonna be a quick video because
Yeah, I know. Arlinka, not feeling well. I hope you feel better soon. There's definitely something going around. I've gotten reports from multiple people of not feeling well.
I'm really, really sick. So for the first one, last week.
Yeah. Well, if you're not feeling well and you're not here, thank you. Right? That's part of the reason we're doing it this way, is to avoid, to stem the transmission of disease.
Same for this one. But onto the new things. First off, it's my anticipation and the different types of anticipation.
Ugh, that sounds rough. Okay, I'm not sure you hit play there at any point.
Yes, the different and the rotating hammers that rotated level physics too. Oh, I cut it off. Sorry. And then for the last things.
Okay, hold on. I think you also sent us the actual stuff. Let's see here. Back in this direction. Where's Arlinka's stuff? They're all separate videos. Here's the lateral bounce. I think that's close. The only thing is that we were not rotating here. That was the part of setting up the rig like this, is so the ball could rotate end over end. And it looks like you got the rotation in the angling, right? That it angles this way and then angles that way, the parent object. But then the child object should be continuously rotating. The keyframe should look essentially like that, have it rotating forward. Yeah, because the other part looks good. It's just that rotating part, right? Because it does look strange going across the screen without that rotation. I do think it would be impossible to do a ball like that in that instance. Okay, so very close, just a minor thing there. The child object needs to rotate there. Okay, so on the second one, it goes the whole way around. Okay, the one that goes the whole way around felt good there. The other one seemed to sort of finish up pretty quickly. Here's the anticipation one. That was really quick. Let's see how I get. Yep, you got a little smearing in there. Yeah, I mean, making this the box allows you to rotate in a different way. Here, you're still rotating around the end. Like, go ahead and try the box so that you can get the tipping, because I think the tipping helps differentiate it from some of the other ones there. I like the squash and stretch that's happening there, but yeah, close. But you're not feeling well. You'll get it soon. Just a few changes to make there. And I missed Thomas's before. I'll come in here. That was Arlinka's. Who is this?
Hello, this is Mark Wise, and I'm...
Who dis? Wait, is this Arlinka's? Oh no, this is Mark's. MW. Okay, you put your initials on there, but that means that I can figure out what your initials are. No, it's fine. Good job, Mark.
Hello, this is Mark Wise, and I'm presenting my scenes that I created this week for week 3. First off is the read.
What's that? Uh-huh. Yeah, like looks like the heavy ball squishes. I didn't see the light ball squishing, which seems like a
Presenting my
strange choice.
scenes that I created this week for week 3. First off is...
Yeah. 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 That's a good point, right? And the anchor point's there. And so if you're doing it via scale, the only, yeah, you'd have to have the anchor point over here. But you can solve this problem more easily by just not squashing and stretching this one. Yeah, because that doesn't make a lot of sense, especially for the heavy ball.
The I don't know, tinkered around with the hammer ball animation. So here it is. Zoom in a little closer. I'll just play it once normally. Right there. Here we go. And really the only difference is just the squash and stretch applied to the balls. That one's a little late. So I'm just...
It seems like you're making some decisions based like frame to frame, like this, because here we've pre-squashed, and I would say that you pre-squashed too much there. Like it definitely, you can obviously tell even at regular playback speed that we're deforming far before the hammer makes contact.
I'm gonna go ahead and
right. It's one thing to pre-squash when the ball is already in motion towards the ground. This ball is just sitting there, and the hammer's coming towards it, and so it's like I think it's more visually obvious to us.
Scoot this over. Yeah, at least by one frame. There we go. And so now, now we have another issue. Okay, well, I'm just gonna go ahead and put this to 1 so that it keeps its shape before, and then, yeah, that works.
Okay, again, the best scenario here is that you put the anchor point over here. That way it smushes, you know, like makes smushes towards the hammer, right? Otherwise, yeah, Lawson makes a good point. Over here, regardless, you don't want it in the middle. That's not good, right? Because then it just sort of squishes into the middle. But I would focus more. The hammers are, I said, close. You know, focus more on that and use your squash and stretch attention for the continuum.
Boom. Yeah, that looks good. All right. Next scene is the, I think it's anticipation. Let's see. Anticipation. Let's save that. Yeah. All right. So here's the anticipation animation. So it's not too complex.
Nice.
Ball stretches out. I believe, no, this one doesn't stretch. These are just...
That's right. They are not stretching, but the movement looks good. Again, you scrub a lot, Mark. Just hit play and then talk.
Yeah, the key rotates and the windup goes back and forth. Alrighty, next one.
Yeah, I don't know if it's intentional, but you actually had it sort of rotate onto the front there. That works.
Let's see. Anticipation with rotation. Alrighty. So here's anticipation with rotation. So the hammers swing up here. The left one. Actually, I'll just play it normally. There we go. This is a little fast, but it works.
Yeah, if they both come to rest too.
So this hammer on the left swings slowly, then it stabilizes off, and then let's see, then the big hammer here, it goes all the way around, and then it goes back down like that. Alrighty, next one, squash and stretch continuum. Alright. So here's squash and stretch continuum. I'm gonna play it. All right, there it is for a couple seconds. So
yeah, you gotta explore expanding the timing here. They're all still exactly the same, right? In order to really start to explore this end of the spectrum, you need to stop using the totally physics-based up and down timing.
Each of these balls all have, as you can see down here, each of these are.
Yeah, you just did one bounce, and that's not going to cut it for this one. You need more time on the timeline so that you can have them motivate themselves up into the air, do multiple bounces. Yeah, just not enough time to do what you need to do.
Like that. This is the medium one, this is the high one, and then this is the really high one. And then as you can see, they drop down. The one with the most squash and stretch is really stretched out here when it's going downwards, and then it hits the bottom. Then this one stretches out really far to the point that these are overlapping and clipping, but that's fine. And then they go back up.
I also think you have the anchor point in the wrong spot. It looks like it's in the middle.
And then they're good.
That's a really key thing that you need to.
So
the bad news is moving the anchor point after having set keyframes is usually not great. So, you really need to make sure the anchor point is in the correct spot before you start.
Alrighty. That's squash and stretch, and then the last one is squash and stretch with lateral movement and rotation. So this one was a little tricky. You had to use a rig, and I was able to get that going. So here's my animation. Oh. Not too complex here, not too long, not too. Oh.
Yeah, everything is not too long. And my advice to you, make it longer, right? How long is 24 frames? Not Lawson. Jose, Anthony, how long is 24 frames? That's right, exactly 1 second, right? And so you need some more time here, Mark.
But that's what it is. It's squashing and stretching with rotation here.
Yep, I think you got the rig all set up there. That's good. Okay, awesome. Got some revisions there. Alexis.
Hi everybody, this here is my continuum scene. Had a lot of fun doing this. I think I struggled a little bit with the wiggle there.
Yeah, I think the wiggle happens very quickly. This ball needs to take some more time to go up and down. So we zoom up, spend some time hanging out up there in coyote time, then smushing down onto the ground, but close.
I don't think I was able to get it too consistent across the whole thing, but it was at this first part where you can really see it. I almost had a heart attack because I saved over this with one of my other ones that I was doing, so thank goodness that I had that autosave on.
Yes, thank goodness.
And then
everybody learn from Alexis, right? You all have autosave turned on. You all know how to access your autosaves, yes?
Changes to my hammer. I don't know why last time I recorded the video, but I just didn't put it in. Showing my hammers, but here's the updated version of these hammers. I did a little swing here, and then I made this sort of feedback through the hammer a little bit delayed.
Yeah, it's like continuing to bounce off the ball. The first time I think works. It's heavy, right? When you make contact with something, it the moment you make contact, it is accelerating at the greatest velocity that you have imparted upon it, and then it slows down. And your ball seems to just continue to move at a very slow speed there. And so, yeah, I feel like the other, having it continue to bounce off, you might be able to make that work if it was reflected in the motion of the ball and it wasn't so fast. They definitely feel like the continuing to bounce off the ball, you could make it work, but it happens too quickly.
So it wasn't such a ripple.
There you go. I like the top one swinging around.
Effect.
Done.
So, yeah.
It feels a little slow, but...
My favorite scene this week was definitely the continuum scene, because I feel like it was just the most dynamic and fun. And it just looks really cool, and seeing all my hard work, I guess.
Good work. Yeah. And you've got your anchor points in the right spot there.
And, yeah, no questions for me. Just trying to get through it all. And,
okay, you're missing one scene there. You got to get the last one in there, but good job. Take some even more time to spread these out on the timeline so that you can really try to make this one look cartoony, not only in the amount of squashing and stretching, but then in the motivation, the velocity that motivates that deformation. That's coming along. Alex. Feels like you reduced the frame rate on the cartoony ball there.
I do like the cell shading.
Yeah, yeah, he did that. Yeah, okay, so fun decision over there, doing that as a lowering the frame rate on this one. Oh, that looks great. I really like the last one, making it look like a beach ball, and the animation felt very good. We have it rolling in the correct direction. I'd like to see just a few more repetitions of the continuum. The presentation and framing of everything here looks really good. And so the smear lines thing, I think, is going to be your friend on presenting this with the lowered frame rate. And then, yeah, we talked about this previously, and so this is a great application of this. Like in the same comp, we have stuff that's running on the ones and stuff that's running on the twos. You use this for nice artistic effect there. Bravo. Are they? The shadows here? Yeah, yeah. Yeah, he's doing some post-processing, right? So he's got chromatic aberration on there. Yeah, Alec was in 240 last semester where we did a lot of compositing workflow stuff in Blender. Yeah, that ball looks really nice. Putting it all together there. Cool. Bravo, Alec. And then somehow I missed Thomas here.
Hey, Casey. So for my videos this week, these are them playing in the background. So there's the wind up, rotation, the hammers, the 360. And then here's the squash videos. I would probably
nice.
say the squash video is probably my favorite. The last one I did that you just saw, I struggled with getting the ball more bouncy with going at an angle when I went just straight with like going over the X axis. I get it, but I was trying to be more creative in my endeavors. And then let's see. Like I said, my squash video is my favorite one. I tried to go with like a marble theme with the different colors. And it was just fun.
Marvel theme? Is that what he said? Marble theme. Okay. Yeah, marble. Different than marble. I was like, which one is the Hulk?
My squash video is my favorite
the
one.
Green one,
I tried
I
to
guess.
go with like a marble theme.
Unless we're talking about the gray Hulk or the red Hulk. Yeah, yeah.
With the different colors. And it was just fun doing the old cartoon looking stuff back here.
Yeah, so your rolling one is the least successful. I'd say the continuum is pretty good. Like this and this look fairly similar. Oh, you got your wobble there in the other
colors.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Pretty good. This ball here, it looks like it speeds up and slows down going this way, where that should be fairly consistent, right? And so that means that line on the graph looks more like a line of it moving across the scene. And then, I think you're also perhaps not getting this kind of curve happening because we do see it slow down
cartoon looking stuff
while it gets closer to the ground.
Back here. I grew up on the Saturday morning cartoons, Tom and Jerry and Wile E. Coyote and Bugs Bunny, all of them. So it was pretty cool to do all this and see it come through. No questions. Had a lot of.
Okay, good start. That last scene needs some love there. Okay, so again, my comments for everybody here are not only to them, they're to everyone, right? So you absolutely need to watch your feedback. You should watch everyone's feedback, okay? Like it's really, when I've been in classes like this, I've learned an unfathomable amount watching other people interact about what it is they're working on. So I highly, highly recommend doing that. Alex said he thought he submitted a presentation video. You very well may have. I may have downloaded the wrong thing. Let me look. Yeah, I think I just downloaded the wrong one. Sorry, Alec. Here we go. No, this is your presentation video. It just doesn't have any audio on it. Okay, so, or maybe it's just labeled wrong. Let me grab the other one.
Hello, Alec here, and I'm gonna present now my.
Yeah.
Hello,
okay.
Alec here.
That's it. The one that was labeled presentation was not the presentation.
Here, and I'm gonna present now my animations for this week.
And for those of you, everyone is appreciated Alex cell shading here. He did link to the tutorial he used to create the cell shading in Blender. If you're interested, that's up there on
So based on the feedback from
these two what? Yeah, perhaps. I mean, we've got everything cranked in here, so you know, if there's anything, we would usually hear it.
last week.
Oh, on here, on VLC.
I added sort of movement to the heavy ball, and I also made this hammer swing more. And for the continuum squash and stretch scene, I really like how it turned out. Especially I like the more cartoonish ball. I think I have like a good animation. And I also had the 6th ball here to try to see how the animation looks with step interpolation.
Yep.
I used also some of the keyframes so the motion could read better punches. And yeah, that's all for this week. Thanks for watching.
Super. Well done, Alec. Those look really exceptional. Okay. Let's go back to our rigging example. Okay. And that is working. Over here, we are on there we go. Okay. Do we have, I think we had just blocked this out. Cool. Okay. So we're blocking out here. Something to consider in Blender. What term do they use in Blender? It is constant. Yeah. And so especially when we get, this starts to be more critical when we get to using, you know, things that are starting to get towards characters, which we're getting to now. We have multi-part things. When you're blocking out the animation, which is where we're just, you know, we need to be here at this point. We need to be here at this point, in this position at this point, using constant interp can, I think, allow you to make better decisions about the blocking without having the default smoothing going on, which more often than not ends up being a hindrance rather than a help. And so here, for instance, if we go back to dope sheet view and then select all of these and put them in constant, there we go, we have there, then we zoom to here, and then we're doing this, right? And so this allows me to more directly and discreetly investigate the positions. Later, when we start talking about characters as a whole, we're going to be talking about the pose, right? Does this pose, and then I don't want to be in this pose, now I want to be in that pose. Up until now, you know, we haven't really been dealing with things that have many parts. Like just last week, we built our first like multi-part thing, and so, you know, the pose of the ball was pretty much this scale keyframes of the ball. And so here, allowing us to use the constant allows us to investigate the pose and later the silhouette. I think I got it that time. Okay, that was right. Boom, nailed it. That's a project, my summer project. I'm gonna vibe code spell correct on the Zoomit app I use to type stuff. Cool. Okay, so with constant there, we know we're bending backwards for anticipation, then moving there, and then bending the other way. Okay, good. Let's continue the block out here. Do we hit the what? What's that?
I was wrong about the spelling.
Oh, it's not it? Oh, dang it. I keep putting the H in the wrong place. Yes? There we go. That's it. That's it. There we go. Silhouette. Okay, so here we hit here. Let's move this cube so it motivates the action that we want. back to object mode. There we go. Cool. And so now we should move and then hit that and bend the other way. Cool. Okay, great. Let's get this happening now. And so instead of putting these in Bezier, let's do that. So now we're moving across, and let's do the anticipation. So we'll bend back and zoom forward. And so let's do that. Remember, we've got, we're animating two things here. The position of the root bone, and then the rotation of the top bone. And we want to get some more velocity here. I'm going to have this move a little bit quicker. And we want to bend when we get here. And so this needs to move closer so that we hit and then takes a moment to get back. So let's do that. Here we're slamming into this. And so on this one, we want to look at the F curve here. And we want to see all of these keyframes, select these, press the decimal point. There we go. And so here to there. So this is the velocity of the position. Moving, oops, we have them all selected. Just want this. Right, and so here, this is the situation where we're decelling, easing into this. And so I'm going to mark this as free, so that I can make this less of a decel. So we're, you know, we don't need, do we need to be doing this where we accelerate? Boom, right? It does help us smack into that, but in terms of like the thing motivating its own movement, there we go. We can stop, and now that the top of it continues to move, we have this follow through. There we go. And so we want to be moving a little bit faster here at the beginning. I'm going to grab this one, move this in. There's only so much room here, so let's go ahead and go to the dope sheet. Let's make this a little bit less time. There we go, so the block out. And over here, easing in too much. Okay, and so now, here, this is the bending of the object as it propels itself forward. And so we probably want to be accelerating into that. And so again, here, we're kind of like this. Let's make these free for now. So we're able to do that. And if we move this one a little bit closer, so that we accelerate, right? Reducing the amount of time means that we increase the velocity. And so we have to slower wind up and then whoosh. Good. Going only to the top position is not the way to go here. We actually kind of want to throw ourselves that way. And so we have the anticipation, we got to get the follow through here. And so on the top one, on the Z here, if we come in, let's go ahead and set another keyframe here. So on our top bone, make sure we're on the bone, not on the object here. Let's look at the pose mode on the bone, and here we want to rotate past, maybe there, and then back. And so this gives us a little bit of what we want. We want this to be smooth, not with a hitch in it. So let's do this kind of thing. If we move it this way, whoops, not the whole thing, just the top one. Kind of there. Not exactly exploding out of that. Let's go faster. That's good. I kind of want more wind up. A little too quick at the beginning. And so let's spread this out even more. There we go. And maybe we recurl a little bit slower. So here, we come in. This is where we're returning. This one I might be even able to get away with deleting. Let's see what it looks like if I delete that. So it's kind of recovering and then it slams back. There we go. Better. Kind of want even more velocity. So again, let's move these even faster, even closer. I want to cover this ground in just a bit of time. Wind up, boom. There we go. And so now it feels like we're hitting it. And this is another opportunity for our hammer swinging, right? And so we go past, and then we can, again, do the other thing, right? So we here, and then instead of returning to straight, let's eventually get back to straight. But here, make sure we're in pose mode for this keyframing on our top bone, right? Let's go back the other way here, and then back the other way, right? So just like the swinging hammer, maybe a little bit this way, and then returning to there. There we go. So we're sort of wobbling back and forth. There we go. Seems a little slidey, and so some rotation at the root might be in order here, right? And so as we really throw ourselves into it, maybe we angle a little bit in that direction. And so here our Z rotation could help us out as we start to slide that way. And then slowly right ourselves, I think. There. Keyframe. Right, and so there we go. And we can do that a little bit with the anticipation as well. Right, and so here, maybe we are reaching back. We're usual here, and then tipping back even further. And then there we go. And now that the root rotation, right, do we go through the floor just slightly here? Yeah, I don't think that's going to matter. When we make impact, in order to make the impact really work here, I think we probably need to do this once again, right? So on the root rotation in pose mode. Right, are we going through the thing? Yes, just slightly. But it's happening for a frame or two. And maybe we exaggerate that. So here, this rotation over, maybe this needs to be a little bit more, so we're really throwing ourselves in that direction. Again, I'm being careful. Whoops, I set more keyframes. So I'm going to zoom in because I don't think I was totally aligned with where I wanted to be. Yeah, this one needs to be a little bit more extreme, perhaps. Nice. Cool. Now looking at those two together, again, some time away from the top animation has made it clear to me that we do not have enough velocity to motivate hitting that block there at the end. And so what I'm doing feels sluggish. What is the answer to that? We need to where is the rotation here? Why are we missing something on the cube? Cube parent, do I have this turned on? I do. Maybe move these back so that we're covering this ground sooner. Let's look at the cube parent location. I think we're decelling into that a little bit too much. Now that I'm looking at it, there we go. Let's look at that. Yep, exactly. Right, so the S curve, not our friend in this case. And let's move this a little bit like that. There we go. Now it feels like, cool. That's good. Right, and we've got our double-sided anchor point here, right? The double anchor point conundrum. And so here, if we wanted to go back and forth on this, on the rotation, this is the rotation that's part of the cube parent object. It comes back. This is a complicated one because usually it's on the same graph where we could go this way and then this way. But this case, it's on two separate objects, right? And so for this box to rock back and then rock again and back, it means we need to do it on this object over here. And so here, this is the cube. There we go. Here, get out of pose mode, and this is all animated in object mode. And so our rotation here, oops, not there. This needs to go back the other way, right? And so this is at row here, keyframe, and now we need another. You got to be careful. We set a keyframe, so that means that this is no longer linear there. That's no good. And so in this case, we need to come through and adjust that. So this one, I'm going to Control Z. There we go. And make sure that this one is set to free. Now if I set a keyframe at the moment of impact, coming down to the ground, right here, where the box makes impact, keyframe. There we go. Make sure that this free, flatten that out. Or you can just select constant. That'll make sure it's flat. Why did that not flatten it out? It should have. May not have had it selected. There we go. That got it. And so now here, there, and now let's rock back the other way a little bit. Click, and back to 0. But those shouldn't be, let's hit normalize, there we go. But these shouldn't be constant. They need to be, in this case, I just want to work with this, so let's just see that. It makes it a little easier to angle everything. So these need to be Bezier. There we go. And again, here, this should look like it's motivated by gravity. So we hang at the top of the rock, and then we accelerate back to the other part, like that. And so now, there we go. So, feels like we might pause for a moment on the ground. Let's zoom way in, right? So this is a little bit more complicated because it's the rotation on this one and the rotation on this one. And so if we select both of those, click, control click, and so we can see them together. Let's select all of them and press decimal point. Let's do this and press this to really see what's happening. There we go. And so here, indeed, there is a frame. See, this is the end of the previous rock. This is the beginning of the next rock. We haven't started this one while this one is completing. In order to make this totally and completely continuous, we will move this back 1 frame. And now we will look at this. There we go, right? We don't have that momentarily stop in momentum there. Cool. I kind of want this. I like the velocity of this, but I just want it to move further, like this thing. Through the camera. Yeah. And so in here, again, I'll turn this off so we can see everything and the position that we reach here at the end. And so on our armature, this is going to be the X location of this. And so in this case, we want to move further without messing up the timing. And so where do I need to move this keyframe? Which direction does this need to go? If I want the floppy arm thing to go further in space. What do you think? Down. Yes, very good. This needs to go down. And so that will move. I'll put the playhead there to confirm my suspicions. And so if I move it down, yeah, I want to move the cylinder. Yeah. And so we want to, because I like this velocity of the cylinder, I just wanted it to go further in there. So I'm going to need to move this guy so that it lines up. But remember, this thing is not animated, it just sits there. I was before that. I'm jumping around. I'm keeping everybody on their toes. There we go. Cool. We can have a better camera angle here. And so I'll zoom this out and down and look at it kind of like this. Let's look at this in some sort of reasonable view. There we go. Ah, that looks way better. Control Alt 0. Boom. There we go. And now we're doing well, except this is a boring color. I want something more fun. We need a new material here. And so, whoa, not that. Get rid of that. We want a new one. There we go. And so I can see it. There we go. And we want to zoom in a little bit. We'll go to the camera and do a little bit of this. There we go. Whoa. And this will make a fun color. Cool. Let's save this. Let's make sure I'm seeing everybody's comments. Good. Okay. And so, yeah, we've got a bunch of pretty complicated situations here, right? Where we've got I feel like the block is not on the ground, either that or I nudged the thing. Let's look. There we go. And so we need to move it on the... There we go. Get you back there. I think that... Yeah, anchor point. I need to move the parent object back on the Y. There we go. Yeah, I did too many things to the wrong one. There we go. All right, so. Here, this one. And this one comes down. This one comes back. There we go. Now we will be good. I like this kind of top view here. Let's look at it like this. So Control-Alt-0. There we go. But we want to be able to see everything. Come back to the camera and let's open up the focal length just slightly. There we go. Not too much. If we get too much, watch what happens to the squares. See how they start to get weird and distorted towards the end of the frame, right? So if this is low, if your focal length is lower than like 24 millimeters, like maybe an issue there. Cool. I feel like we can really feel the impact, especially of the wiggly arm thing. And so this will be technically the name of this. Right. The velocity of it. And so the top root bone got both position and rotation, right? Just sort of a little bit of lean. And then the top bone just got rotation. This is usually how it goes until we learn about a few other things, is that the root would be the only thing that you would move. Everything else rotates relative to that, right? Like in order to put my arm forward, I think about my hand going forward, but what's really happening is my arm is rotating up, this forearm is rotating down, and that moves my arm forward. We'll get to some of that coming up here, but we got that happening. And yeah, this cube needs a stopper. And so let's put a stopper over there for that cube. Shift D. And move this over. Look at it from the top so I can actually get it correctly oriented. There we go. Move this straight down. That works. 0. Cool. Okay, between this and the smear scene, I think we have our work cut out for each other. Let's come up with some fun labels here. This is going to be the 90-degree rotation and rotation. And let's extrude this a little bit. And here we're going to be referring to armature follow through. So here, armature follow through, and let's make sure that that's rotated well. So this should be 90 and probably 0 and 180. Gets that aligned. Bring that out. Put a material on this. There we go. Maybe bring this down. There we go. Maybe some of this. And some of that. And here. Yeah, we'll just. Yeah, I don't want to do that. We're not gonna do that. Okay, Shift D. X. Y, Z, there we go, move this back. And this is, over here, this is going to be the ubiquitous double anchor point. Cool. And I'm going to zoom out a little bit. And so I don't want to adjust the focal length anymore. I'm going to tab out here, grab the camera. Let's look at the camera. And so if the camera is, if you're in local, not global, but local, the Z axis of the camera allows you to sort of move it along where it is, which allows you to just sort of move it back, which should allow us to get a little bit more in our view of what we're able to see here. Kind of like so. There we go. And so we're able to see all of those. Cool. Okay, a little bit about editing here. I'll do this in After Effects. If you want to do it somewhere else, feel welcome. But here, let's do it. Actually, let's make sure I can launch After Effects, because that may be a problem. Let's see. Let's render this. So let's come over here to our render settings, make sure we got everything set up. We don't want to do a PNG sequence in this case. We'll do a movie. We will make sure we're using an MP4 just to keep things simple for right now. And let's put it in the correct folder over here under 287. There we go. And let's Control F12 this thing. There we go. Okay, now if we were doing an image sequence, we could take it so that we have multiple, we can bring it into After Effects early, but we will not. And so I'm waiting for that to finish, which should be pretty quick. And cool. All right. So editing these together into a long, because when you ask you to record the video for next week, I'm going to ask you to have the rendered image playing, not the Blender file at first. So when you set up a new comp in After Effects, the main thing is making sure it's at the right frame rate. And we want 24. 1920 by 1080 is fine here. This is in hours, minutes, seconds, frames, right? So the last number is not milliseconds, it's frames. So that's 0 to 23. And so we can say this, and we will call this smears and follow through. There we go. And now in After Effects we'll have here. There we go. Smears, follow through. There we go. All right. And so now I can bring this in here. Again, if you want to edit this together in something else, that's fine. But a lot of you already have After Effects experience from 184. So in this one here, I'm just grabbing the movie we just made and bringing it in. And there we go. Now, if the timing on the timeline is shorter than what you expect, that means you did not correctly change the frame rate of your After Effects comp, right? Because the default in After Effects will be 30 frames per second. If you put a 24 frames per second movie on the timeline, it might smush it. And so here, the easiest way to loop this is to just copy and paste it. If you hold down Shift, you can just simply slide it over and play it 3 times in a row, which makes it very easy. I know there's a looping expression in After Effects, but it requires a whole bunch of other work. So we can get this out of here. How do we render? And so you could do this and then have your next scene here, play 3 times, etc. Right? As we've learned, being able to have it loop multiple times while you're talking over it, while we're trying to analyze it, that's the way to go. Over here, composition, add to media encoder queue, once you have everything there on the timeline. And so in the media encoder, here, give it a minute. The After Effects comp should show up over here any moment now. There it is. And so we want to use the YouTube settings. We'll delete, or actually we won't delete that yet, so we don't delete the thing. Come over here and I'll search for YouTube. There we go. And YouTube 1080. And we can drag that over here. Then delete the one that was before that. Then decide where this movie should go. Again, we'll put it back where it should go. And now save and render. And that should spit out pretty quick once it loads everything up here. After it connects to a server, which it inexplicably needs to do here. There we go. And so now we should have a movie of this looping 3 times. 1, 2, and a 3. Beautiful. Right? Great. So that's the format we want to be in from now on. Especially now, after you're done talking over the original explanation of it, if you want to get into Blender and then do your stuff and your scrubbing and pointing out exactly what the problems are, which you should do that. But up until now, we've been able to get away with it because we've just been doing a handful of things in Blender. But as we do more stuff, Blender may or may not play back in real time. And this will also prevent everyone from scrubbing over their actual animation. So, yeah. Using After Effects for a little bit of editing there. If you want to do it in Premiere or some other program, I don't care. That's fine. But having everything put together there forces you to go through the render process and making sure that the timing is correct. And we have rigged stuff this week, even more stuff. So this will all be very exciting. A lot of work to do. So we'll be doing these 2 scenes, all of our smearing that we did on Monday with our smear add-on, and this double anchor point and armature follow-through scene, plus the corrections to what I asked you to fix based on today's feedback. So, awesome. Good luck, everybody. And remember, work early and often. Talk